Hey everybody, this is Jones Math Ed Problem Solving. We're going to be talking about Egyptian fractions with my daughter Lucy. So Lucy, what grade are you in?
Seventh.
Seventh grade. So we're looking at Egyptian fractions. Okay, so Egyptian fractions, there were two rules for Egyptian fractions.
Yes.
They had to be, you had to use unit fractions. Do you remember what a unit fraction is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's like 1/4, 1/2, 1/6. Now all of these have 1 as numerator.
Okay. And the second rule was that you can't repeat any fractions.
So.
And what we're going to do, when I say use unit fractions, it's going to be writing them as a sum. And so the first thing I want to do, this 2/3, is not in Egyptian style because it doesn't have 1 in the numerator.
Mm-hmm. But we can't just do 1/3 plus 1/3.
Why can't we just do 1/3 plus 1/3?
Because you can't repeat any fraction.
Okay, so this is totally fine, and this is actually a 4th grade standard in the state of Texas to decompose a fraction as a sum of unit fractions. But in Egyptian style, it's different. So we're going to think about 2/3 as 2 divided by 3. Or a way that the Egyptians did it is they would say we have 2 loaves of bread, and we're going to try to share fairly with 3 people. So Lucy, can you draw a picture of that? Okay, so how would you draw a picture of dividing up the bread?
All right.
Okay, I like those rectangles.
It's not a rectangle. It is a loaf of bread. Anyway, here are 3 people.
Okay, can we name these people 1, 2, and 3? All right.
All right, I suppose.
Go ahead.
So anyway, there are multiple ways we could solve this.
Why don't you solve it one way?
Okay, so we already know that everybody can get 1 piece of the first loaf.
Okay.
And now we can't use thirds again.
Okay.
So why don't we try fourths?
Okay. So there's enough for everybody to get a 4th.
Yes. Now we split this 4th into 3 pieces.
Okay.
And everybody gets 1/3 of a 4th, which is 1/12.
Okay. I really like how you said that. This part here, each one of those pieces is 1/3 of 1/4. We can think of that of as multiplication. So 1/3 times 1/4 or 1/12. Great. So this is an Egyptian way that follows these rules, using only unit fractions and not repeating any fractions. We got some space over here. You said there were multiple ways. Can you do another way?
Okay, I guess this time we're not going to draw 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
So
We got the 2 loaves of bread.
we can split it into half. 2, 3.
So there's enough for everybody to have
2/3
half of a loaf.
equals 1/2 plus. Now, like you said earlier, we can think of this as 1/3 of 1/2.
Okay.
And we can think of that of as a multiplication symbol.
Okay.
And so now we have 1/3 of 1/2 is 1/6.
Okay.
And that's one of the other ways you can
It's
do
another way to do that.
it now.
Do you want to try another way?
Sure.
Okay.
Switch pens.
Switch pens there.
Okay. Just for funsies. All right. So, anyway, we have our 2 loaves of bread. And now let's split it up into fourths.
Okay.
So we have 2/3 equals 1/4. And we can split this one up into 3 equal pieces.
Okay.
1/3 of 1/4 is 1/12.
Okay.
Now we can split this one into fourths as well. I mean, into 16ths. Get really interesting.
Oh my gosh, you're making this hard. This isn't 16ths though.
No, it's 8ths.
Okay, so
Eighths,
plus
yeah.
1/8.
And we have 5/8 left.
Okay, I have a suggestion. I think this is really cool.
Okay.
How much is this part?
That is 1/2.
Okay, let's think about that as 1/2. Can you share that among the 3 people?
Yes.
Okay,
But then we'd have 2/8 left.
hang on. So there's for person 1 and person 2 and person 3. That's 1/3 of 1/2.
Plus
How much is that?
1/6.
Okay. And you still have this 8th left right there, so what are you going to do with that?
There are several things we could do with that.
Okay. What's the simplest thing we could do with it?
Throw it out.
No,
And
to
just-
share it fairly. To share it
Okay.
fairly.
You just split that 8th into thirds.
Okay.
Now, I might need to go into the other side of this pen here.
Okay. How much is that?
So, 1/3 of 1/8. That's 1/8 times 1/3.
Okay.
And that is 1/18.
Okay. How are you getting the 18?
Well, when you multiply fractions, you multiply the denominators. And
Okay, so you're doing
8 times 3 is
you're doing 1/3
no
times
24th.
1/8.
A 24th. I was still in the mode of sixths.
So you came up with 1, 2, 3 different Egyptian ways to represent these, to represent the same fraction 2/3 using this sharing loaves of bread fairly kind of thing. That's really cool. You can always, and we're not going to do this right now, but you could get a common denominator to check this. Like on this one, a common denominator would be 12. 4/12 plus 3/12 plus 1/12 would add up to 8/12, and then that simplifies to 2/3. So you know we did that one right.
Yes.
Common denominator here would be, well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fractions there. I'm thinking 24 might be a
They
good
all
common
go up to
denominator.
24, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we can even see that from the picture that we could end up getting 24s from that. I don't know. Okay. How many different ways do you think there are to write the fraction 2/3 in an Egyptian style?
Several.
Several. Do you think there's like 10 different ways?
Well, technically, since you can keep on like slicing up a fraction into other pieces, there's not really a limit to
You
it.
think there's maybe not even a limit? Okay, cool.
It'd
so-
just be really long.
Yeah, let me put this on pause. Let me show you something. Do you remember from earlier math classes ever seeing the pattern block shapes? They kind of, some look like a yellow hexagon. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay,
That's not yellow.
so that's not yellow, yeah. If I let the yellow hexagon be the whole and call that 1, then there were red trapezoids, and that fraction was a half. So like 2 of those would make a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a green triangle that was a 1/6,
Yes.
and then a blue rhombus
1/3.
that was 1/3. And from this picture right here, I actually get a setup for an Egyptian fraction representation for the number 1. Because check it out. We've got 3 unit fractions, and they're all different. So it meets the 2 rules of Egyptian fractions, and they add up to 1. So this is pretty cool. So here's something that we can do with this. This is what I like to call my key fact to help me get even more Egyptian representations. So one of the things that you wrote earlier was 2/3 was equal to 1/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/12. And so I could take a look at this key fact, and let me get a marker here that I like. I could write my key fact. 1 is 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/6. And I can multiply both sides of this key fact by 1/4. And using properties of algebra, if I have 2 things that are equal, I multiply by the same thing, then the results are still equal. So I'm going to get 1/4, and then when I distribute the 1/2 to all of these numbers, I get 1/8 plus 1/12.
That's a 1/4 that you're distributing.
Oh yeah, that's right, sorry. 1/4, 1/8, 1/12, and 1/24. Okay, so why did I say that? I just said that because I wanted to. I could also take my key fact. Let me get this bigger pen out here. Key fact. And I could multiply both sides by 1/12. And that would give me 1/12 equals, and when I distribute the 1/12, I get 1/24 plus 1/36 plus 1/72. I think that's how I say that. Okay, so why am I saying that? Well, here's why I'm saying that. I could take, do you see how we have a 1/12 right here?
Yes.
So I can swap this 1/12 out for the stuff that says it's equal to 1/12. So actually, I could get a different way for writing 2/3. 1/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/24 plus 1/36 plus 1/72, where these 3 all substituted for 1/12.
And then you could put that in to substitute for the 1/4.
Oh, cool. So we got this way. You came up with 3 ways over here. 1, 2, 3. Now I came up with a 4th way. Go ahead and show me what you're saying about substituting in that other thing.
Well, do you want me to keep the substitute for 1/12?
Why don't you go back to this original one?
Okay, so 2/3 equals 1/3 plus 1/8 plus 1/12 plus 1/24 plus 1/12.
Awesome. I really like that. So you...
But we repeated the 12.
Oh, hang on. I noticed that too. That's pretty weird. But just to make sure that people are... what am I doing? So the 1/4, you replace that with those 3 from this one here. But then you notice something, and it's really cool that you did. What did you notice?
The 1/12 is repeated.
Oh, man. So this isn't quite an Egyptian fraction because we're not supposed to repeat anything. So what can we do? Well, don't worry. We just have to clean this up a little bit. What do you get when you add 1/12 plus 1/12?
2/12.
2/12.
Which is equivalent to 1/6.
You whispered that. Can you say it a little bit louder?
Which is equivalent to 1/6.
Okay. So can you rewrite 2/3 and then trade that in?
Wait.
Cool. So you took this 12th and you put it over here with that one to make 1/6. Is this a legal Egyptian fraction?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. So when we're doing this, we can always use the key fact to get another Egyptian representation. If you pick the key fact and use it with the fraction that has the largest denominator, which is really the smallest fraction, then you're going to get denominators that are even bigger, and so they're not going to have any repeats. But you could use a fraction that's earlier, not maybe the smallest, and then you might have to check for repeats in here. But then if you have repeats, don't worry about it. Just combine them together, and then you can get a new Egyptian fraction. So we could use the key fact on this one here, this one in orange, and multiply both sides of the key fact by 1 over 72, and they get an even longer Egyptian fraction, even longer and even longer. Thanks so much for helping me with that.
Aren't we going to try another fraction?
You want to try another one?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So the fraction I wanted you to try was, do you want one that's bigger than a half or smaller than a half?
I don't care.
You don't care. Okay. Let's write, let's say 5/8 as an Egyptian fraction in, let's say, 3 different ways. This is a kind of, in three different ways. This is a kind of question I would ask on the test for my students.
All right. Okay. Students beware. Okay. So anyway, 5/8. So we have ourselves some 8s, but we only have 5 of them. So like these don't exist. But of course we can't do 5/8. We can maybe do 1/8, and then this one will be handled. But then there's 1/2 left. 1/2 of 1 whole, so we can just do 1/2.
Whoa! You totally did this a different way. I thought you were going to do loaves of bread, but instead you drew a picture of 5/8 and you said that's a half, which is a unit fraction, and this one's an 1/8, and that's 5/8. Awesome. Okay, you've got one way. You need 2 more.
So anyway, I'm going to use the key fact.
Okay.
I don't feel like doing that again.
You don't feel like doing this again?
No.
Or you don't feel like doing this part again?
I do not feel like doing
Okay.
that part again.
All right, use the key fact.
5/8 equals 1/8 plus 1/2.
Okay.
So, let's go with 1/8 then, times 5/8.
So when we do the key fact, we don't multiply this one by 1/8. We take the key fact and we multiply it by 1/8. Like you would start with 1 equals 1/2 plus 1/6. Oh, sorry, 1/3 plus 1/6. And then multiply this by 1/8. Kind of like we did over here. I started with my key fact, then I multiplied both sides by one of the fractions I had in here to get a new statement in terms of that fraction.
So, multiply this entire thing.
We're not multiplying this thing. We're multiplying the key fact. So go ahead and multiply 1/8 times 1.
That's 1/8.
And then multiply this sum by 1/8.
1/2 times 1/8 is 1/16.
Okay.
Plus 1/3 times 1/8 is 1/24.
Okay.
Plus 1/6 times 1/8 is 1/48.
Okay, yeah. Now, instead of taking this one and multiplying it by 1/8, now what do you do with that new info that you got?
Now we plug that in for the 1/8
Okay.
in our problem. So it would be 5/8 equals 1/16 plus 1/24 plus 1/48 plus 1/2.
Good. So where did the 1/2 come from?
It was already there.
It was already there. Great. So that's 2 ways. All right. Can you do a third way?
We just need a third. This time let's use the key fact for this one.
Okay.
So
So the key fact was 1 equals 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/6.
Okay. Anyway, times 1/2. Anyway, this part times 1/2.
Okay.
So that would give us 1/2 is equal to 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. 1/3 times 1/2 is 1/6, and 1/6 times 1/2 is 1/12.
Okay.
So we plug that in, and it's 5/8.
Where are you plugging in? Are you plugging it into the first one, or are you plugging it into the second one?
I'm plugging it into the first
Okay,
one.
gotcha. So
5/8
5/8 equals?
Is equal to 1/8 plus 1/4 plus 1/6 plus 1/12.
Cool. So these three came from there. And I thought you were going to plug it into this one here.
That would be very long and complicated.
1/16 plus 1/24 plus 1/48 plus 1/4 plus 1/6 plus 1/12. Does this count as an Egyptian representation?
Let me check.
Okay.
They are all unit fractions.
Good.
And they none of them repeat.
Great. None of the denominators or none of the fractions repeat. Great.
And that is 4 ways.
4 ways. Awesome. Thanks so much, Lucy. I really appreciated your help.
This was Jones Math Ed with Lucy.